Well, it felt it was high time to get back to reviewing comic books on this comic book review channel. So what worse place to start than modern X books? So we're going to go ahead and talk about Immortal X-Men #1. So we're going to break this entire book down, and yes, we will talk about the reason this book is so controversial. I know you guys are thinking, I know you've probably already heard about it. We will discuss it, I promise. But for those of you who are long-term viewers of this channel, you probably remember me saying that I'm done with modern X books. I'd given them all up, but I heard about all the crazy crap that happens in this book, and just like Godfather 3, just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. So let's do this. Let's break this turd down. So X-Men Red is written by, or Immortal X-Men, I'm already a book ahead, is written by Karen Gillan. And it's mostly told from the point of view of Mr. Sinister. It kind of bounces back and forth, but it does start off with a flashback of Mr. Sinister and his past dealings with Mystique and Destiny, and then it comes back to the future. And here in the future, or in the present day rather, Magneto is resigning from the Quiet Council. He's going to go ahead and headline a different X book, so he can't be in this X book anymore, so he's given up his seat. So now it's up to the squabbling Council of Krakoa to try to figure out who's going to take his place. So since Magneto and Professor Xavier are in the doghouse with the council right now because of the fallout of Inferno, where it's revealed that Magneto and Xavier were keeping Moira and her life-spanning mutant knowledge of the future a secret from everyone else, and that was kind of how they built Krakoa. That's come to light. Now everybody's pretty upset with old Mags and Chuck. So Xavier's still in the council, but he has very little sway. Nobody really wants to listen to him, and they vote immediately to strip Magneto of his council duties right away so that he can have no say in his replacement. So the search for the replacement is on, and we get this kind of montage of different mutant characters making their case as to why they should be the new members of the council. And I know what you're thinking, because if you're watching this channel, it means you are highly intelligent and highly observant. So that is Gorgon up at the top corner. And I know what you're thinking. Hey, wait a minute. Didn't Gorgon die in the X of Swords event? And wasn't the whole point of that story was it actually had stakes, because if you die during the X of Swords, you can't be resurrected because of some weird interdimensional mishmash that made it to where you couldn't have your brain and put back into your body intact? Well, you would be correct. That was exactly what happened in X of Swords. And apparently that's been undone because the Gorgon is back. So I don't know if he was back in this book or if he was brought back in one of the other 6 dozen X books that come out. But yeah, X of Swords doesn't matter anymore. So moving on, Gorgon is back. He tries to put his name in for the council, but it doesn't work out. Selene, the former member of the Hellfire Club, in fact, former Black Queen of the Hellfire Club, shows up and puts her hat in the ring for the new member of the Quiet Council. She's a weird necromantic vampire, and she makes a pretty good case for herself as to why she should be on the Quiet Council. One, you need another villain to replace Apocalypse, but also she proved in the whole Necrotia event back a few years ago that she can perform resurrections already. She brought a bunch of dead mutants back. They were kind of weird, evil, demon-possessed versions of themselves, but she possesses a resurrection ability. So she thinks she could assist the 5 in their resurrection and maybe even offer up some notes to improve their technique. So this gives the Quiet Council reason to discuss, and they strongly are considering bringing Selene aboard. But then Hope Summers shows up and says, hey, wait a minute, I'm a member of the 5. I think we should have a voice on the council, so I'm putting my hat in to become the next member. And this prompts a lot of debate among the council. They vote. They do end up voting Hope Summers in, so she becomes a member of the Quiet Council. This irritates Selene. She wanted to be a member, so she conjures a giant millipede out of the ocean to attack the island of Krakoa, and that's where we're to be continued. That's the end of issue 1. So I know what else you're thinking, astute, intelligent viewer. Hope is a member of the 5. The 5, it's been established, are a weird inseparable group who are in charge of the resurrection. They're the ones that perform the duties. So it was make or Cohen law that they don't have a say in who gets resurrected, because that kind of makes them weird gods among mutants. They already have an elevated status on the island. They're to be the rules are they're to be protected at all costs. They are kind of kept sequestered because, again, they need to be protected. They're irreplaceable. The rest of the mutants can be replaced with clones of themselves. They can't, because they're the ones that do it. Also, they're not supposed to have a say in who gets resurrected, which means Hope can't be on the Quiet Council. That was already established in previous X books. But we're apparently already tossing out canon that's only a couple of years old. So didn't we just do a video about editorial oversight on these books? I don't expect Karen Gillan to have read and be completely familiar with everything that's happened in the Krakoan era of X-Men. This was something that was just kind of established in a one-off issue of X-Men. I just happened to remember it, so I went back and read it. But this is where an editor would see a script like this and say, hey, wait a minute, no, we've already established this, this, and this. So unless something is going to happen to undo that, this isn't something that can happen in this book. So again, the importance of editors. All these little continuity errors, especially in an era that's not too old, is kind of unacceptable. So that leaves us to the last part of this book. The big crucifix in the room. What's everybody so cheesed off on this book about? Well, there is a scene wherein Gorgon is convincing Hope Summers to put her name in for the council seat. And in doing so, just in a weird kind of throwaway line in passing, he just goes ahead and just throws out the divinity of Jesus Christ. Basically saying that in the Marvel 616, the story of Jesus was he was a mutant, he used his powers to create phony miracles, and he duped the human race into creating a church around him. So that is Christianity in Marvel. And why is this even here? This little scene has very little or nothing to do with the story. It's just in there. It's shock for shock value. And I can't respect a writer who has to draw from that well, who can't just create a compelling story. No, they have to throw in something that is so jaw-droppingly out of place and so controversial that it gets the story, it makes the story hit on some level. So Exodus, who is a knight of the Crusade, so it's really odd that he's the one that's criticizing the divinity of Jesus. But I mean, at the same time, people find and turn their backs on religions all the time. Exodus is 1,400 years old or something like that. So whatever. If you want to make that part of his character arc, they've already done it with Nightcrawler. They've gotten rid of his Catholicism, which was the backbone of his character for pretty much his entire existence. That's just gone, but hey, that's modern X books. So in the modern X-Men era, for those of you who don't know, the X-Men are immortal. The Scarlet Witch created an afterlife for them that their quote-unquote souls go into while they're waiting to be resurrected, which is their heaven. Exodus basically worships Hope as a messiah and God, which other mutants do as well. And they've created a mutant religion. To me, all of that is jump the shark. It's self-indulgent, it's self-aggrandizing, and it's just bad. It's just stupid, ludicrous writing. And that's why I'd given up on the X books. So this was in there. It was a throwaway line. It didn't need to be in there. It's just shock for shock value. This honestly, for a writer of Karen Gillan's, pedigree, this is beneath him. I really think that this was just it was in there just to shock a reader. It was in there to get some headlines. It doesn't advance the story. Why put it in there? I don't know. So tell me what you think in the comments below. But before we get into the wrap up, let's go ahead and finish up with this review. So the X-Men are bigger than Jesus now. It was the Beatles did this back in the 60s. But the Beatles were a cultural icon. These are a failing X book in a failing comic line from a failing comic industry. So before we go ahead and make declarations like that, let's put ourselves in perspective. The X-Men are not the Beatles. So all in all, Immortal X-Men #1, this book isn't very good. So I said before that I don't think this book was in Karen Gillan's wheelhouse. And I don't mean that as a dig at him. I couldn't have written a story like this either. I don't think many writers could. To write that kind of Game of Thrones, House of Cards, those political intrigue where you take these back dealings of politicians in the world of power and you make it interesting and you make it compelling, that takes a certain kind of writer. And there are even the best writers that can't tackle storylines like this. And that's really what this book needed. And it really does. It's just another piece of evidence that it's very possible that the Krakoan era of the X-Men is really a storyline that only Jonathan Hickman could tell. And that when it became evident he was leaving the titles, it was probably time to wrap it up, not keep it going. For just off the top of my head, for a book like this, which I think would have made a lot more interesting than the drivel they gave us, would have been Selene, if she wants to be on the Quiet Council so bad. I am counting 4 current active members of the Hellfire Club that sit on the council as members. Wouldn't it have made more sense for Selene to go behind the scenes to each one of them individually and try to sew up their vote in support of her in kind of an effort to re-solidify the inner circle of the Hellfire Club as the ruling majority of the Krakoan the Krakoan Council, thus propelling the Hellfire Club back up to geopolitical politics, which has always been their goal. And you would have Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost and Selene and all of them back up to their old tricks. That would have been an interesting story, in my opinion. That would have been the type of story I would have expected from a book like this, not the just kind of ham-fisted political action that we got. So I didn't appreciate this book much. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was very well written. I think, I thought they're just go ahead and let's bash all of Christianity for the sake of bashing Christianity was stupid. I mean, we don't need it. And again, it's kind of beneath Karen Gillan as a writer, I would have thought, but maybe not. So I want to know what you guys thought, though. Did you read this book? Did you like it? If you did, why did you like it? If you didn't, what didn't you like about it? And was it just the anti-Christian part, or did you read the story as a whole and just think it was stupid? So let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about it. While we're down there, please hit like and subscribe, and comment on the video. It really helps get into that YouTube algorithm and gets this video in front of more eyes, which helps the channel grow. And I really appreciate all of you guys who've helped the channel get as big as it's gotten over the last few months. I appreciate all you guys, and I hope to see you in the next video, and I'll talk to you then. Bye.